progress made. It's tricky to find some time to do this now and then, but from my last stream I said I'd speed up on a couple of things. So I've done a bit off stream to work some things out. I think where I left off I had the mast started. So what I've done is I needed to find some super glue, which I have found. These little guys have enough to get a few bits and pieces in place, and so what I've done is a few things on this. So a couple of steps on the side, gives it the impression of like a little ladder up the side. Not really functional, I don't think. You won't be able to really balance anything on it, but it's most of this is just to view and see what it's like and give the impression for a tabletop game, or even if this is just a centerpiece that you're theatre of the mind type gaming around. I mean, you don't need to be able to do everything. So you'd say, my little ship comes alongside and we scale the ladder on the side to get onto the boat. Stuff like that. You don't need the actual pieces to scale the side of the boat. But it's just to give it a bit of an extra look. Something a little different from what this plastic boat used to look like. So that you know it's a boat, but unless you've played with whatever this game was, you hopefully won't recognise it too well. So what I've done is I sped up on the back of the ship, got that super glued on, held very nicely on with the wood and the plastic, so that's on there. Crafted just some extra height on the back with some cardboard and super glue, and that was really quick and easy to stick on with the super glue, and gave it a bit of extra height at the back, so your captain's sitting in the back there maybe. And I've got some a wheel to steer with, and that I cut down so that with a little bit of wood filler in there, it will plug in there, so I will do that tonight. I added the magnet, so we have now a working sail that holds on. So main intention for this was to have a mast, but also have it removable, mainly for storing it, so you don't have the masts to have to find some box, or can sort of be pretty flat. So that works quite well. So fully masted with those two. This was the one that came with it, and this one I made to look similar, but larger obviously. Wondering if I should put a little platform on the top to have a character stand up there. Might work. I got the height pretty okay, but it sort of moves around a bit, so I could maybe build that up so it sits a bit stronger on the bottom there. Mast, magnets, and I finished on the rudder, but when I've put this back piece on, it's a bit big because it'll get stuck with being too, won't sit on the base properly that I've got. So I've got to cut maybe a bit of an angle off there, sort of cut it down so that it fits easier. That's the wrong direction, but fits easier under there. And that then lines up with everything fitting onto the base I've got. So the lower deck fits in. Oops, clips on pretty well. So that just doesn't currently fit in there, so I've got to cut a fair bit off to get that in there. So I'll start on that, I think. And one of the other things I wanted was the centerpiece of the front of the ship, character or something. And I thought, I mean, looking around the house, thinking what bits I've got, I was thinking maybe just an anchor or a spear, but what I've found is a little pack I had, Kings of War, little miniatures, so dwarf ironclad regiment, and I've made up only about 5 of these little guys. I haven't played the game or anything, but I had these guys sitting around, and this one holding a hammer and a little shield. You know, they have him resting with the shield on his foot or put the shield up on his arm. Would look pretty awesome mounted to the front of the ship. So it would be like a bronze statue or a wooden statue, and it would be, I've got the little doors I can maybe man the ship with. It could be a little dwarven ship, and they've made the ship after maybe one of their heroes or something. So I haven't named the ship yet, but I reckon I could make a little platform that guy could sit on and be the soul of the ship type thing. So I didn't want it too high for him to point down. I want him to sort of stand almost, a little bit of an angle, so I need to find a little platform to sit him on there. So I'll work on that as well, something that it can sit on. Not that big, but cut down from that. So a couple of things to get on with tonight. So what I'm going to do is try and get this rudder in. First things first, eyewear. Don't want to send an eye away, and I've got to try and carve this so it's the rudder. Underneath there. So I've got some clippers reckon I shouldn't need to build a new one. If I just carve this one down, maybe. Get this. Yeah. So just carving this little rudder down a little bit. See how we go. Thought that was going to be a bit harder than it was, but we good. So it's still holding together, it was just glued onto the foam there. Carving it down a little bit just to fit it in under there, and it's sticking out a little bit too far out the back maybe, so we'll get rid of some of this. So I've still got my rudder. I mean, I've got to glue that on, so I can add some more glue in there. Sits out of back a little bit. Let's see. How we go. Because essentially it needs to sit out there like that. But I'm not leaving it on there, I'm gluing it to this, so it needs to sit under there. If I put that on. Line that up. Yeah. So I can take a whisker off, but that's the rudder sitting in under there. It's going off the back just a little bit, but it sort of lines up with the back there. So how we got that? Yeah. Rudder. Now I reckon I can get that glued on with super glue and it won't take ages to dry. So essentially that sits in under there like that. Just got to be careful with this cardboard, but could take a fraction off the bottom maybe. Get rid of that. Just a fraction more. And that's the rudder. So, how are we going? Oh, a couple of viewers. Evening all. Hope you're doing well. If you're just joining me, I'm just working out this rudder. Had one made and just was a bit big, so I've cut it down, and that needs to just glue on with some super glue so it's straight along there. So, a little bit of super glue, a little bit of rudder, I reckon. Straight in the middle. It's not doing any fancy maneuvers. It's just needing to look the part. Perfect. And that is what I should have been using earlier on to get things moving a bit quicker. So that is already stuck on, and it's going to be stronger once I've added some essentially PVA black paint Mod Podge solution over the whole lot. But that is the rudder glued on, and hopefully might need to take just a fraction more off that back corner. Crafting on the fly here, just to make it look the part. Yeah, and a bit more super glue. So that this stays together. Now, I found the super glue to do the magnets and that, and my daughter wanted to learn about it, so I showed her and told her that super glue is very sticky, you got to be very careful with it, don't touch it, and gave her an example because I stuck my fingers together slightly. So always just be careful with the products you're using. So it's stuck on, but it's pretty flimsy. So what I could do is get some, once I put the PVA glue and stuff around there, it should bond it a lot better. But that is the rudder on. So that's one stage done. So the next stage, yeah, that looks better. So rudder's on, and so where are we at? We have a rudder, we have a mast that holds on via a magnet, and I'm gonna build the little piece out the front, which is gonna hold this little guy as the front of the ship. So the carving out the front of the ship that ships have, either like a mermaid or something like that. This one here So this is going to be a dwarven ship, and it just needs a little pedestal to sit him on, so that he can be mounted to the front, sort of about there. There's a little mounting, so I just need to figure out how I'm going to mount. And what I was thinking was something like that, little bow piece, so that he sits out further out from the ship. So sort of like that. So slowly getting little bits of the ship done. So I want to flatten that out. So he's going to stand on there like that. So I just need to shape this little bit of foam, and this is going to be the little plate he sits out on the front of the ship. Get rid of this little bit of backing cardboard. This is just sort of like a packing foam that I've got big chunks of, just to bulk out what I'm building, but it's nice and light as well. So sort of something like that, and then he'll sit out the front. So I could probably carve it back a little bit further, so he sits up under there. Because it doesn't need to be a big thing jutting out. Don't want it to be half the size of the ship. So we'll just line him up. Take about that much off. So if you're just joining me, been crafting this sort of toy ship into some tabletop terrain, and the unique thing about this is, like, it's a ship from a board game, and it's hollow. So I made a lower deck that it sits on, and the base plate that it's sitting on are the waves. So I'll paint this up as waves, and it gives it a tabletop base to sit on, so you can move it around. It's big enough that it's enough to see the waves and hold the bottom of the ship, and it's also small enough so if you had another one of these or two of these, you could have another ship come up and beside it, so that you're boarding it, or coming along the side of the dock so that you're boarding it. But it gives it like almost like a display piece type feel to it. Once it's painted up and done, it hopefully will look quite cool. So what I'm working on now is the front of the ship. Most sort of old sailing ships have like the statue or mermaid or horse or a head or skeleton or something off the front. I've found this Kings of War Dwarf Regiment little piece, and I reckon he'll work quite nicely in here as the centerpiece of the ship there. So one thing I can maybe see that I could do, although I won't get the angle to it. No, I can do that with something else. So I reckon I just need to figure out the placement for this. If he sits up under there, then about there, which lines up perfectly with a line through there. To that one there. So I glue that to there. And what I reckon I can do actually is use, once that's set, is use some of the modelling paste I've got, because this is sort of bubbly foam. I can use the modelling paste just to smooth that off and maybe give it a wooden textured look, because I don't really want to put this coffee stir sticks or hot dog sticks don't really bend, and I've sort of got a curve to that, and then it would be quite hard to cut the shape of the edges out and make it line up to the plastic in the ship. So if I just carve this a little bit flatter, just a touch off center. There. So got a couple of viewers at the moment, which is cool. Hopefully you're enjoying what I'm doing, maybe keeping up with the rest of the streams, my other videos. Slowly building my knowledge of how to stream and how to make videos. I haven't made videos except for this channel, so all of this is new. So on a journey with me. So we've got super glue and a little square of it here, and this little guy right there. Hold it so it sets. So much quicker. This is good, clear gel, tacky glue, but it's slow. And super glue although they come in these little packs, is nice and fast. So let me think. Do I want to put the person on first and then paste around? Yeah, that'll work. So we'll glue this guy on. And he's got a hammer that I can move and a little shield. So he can either sort of lean on his shield, or you can sort of have his shield up on his arm. So let's get on here first. So need a bit of glue. There. Just give him a moment to stick to the foam, and then he's got his back on the edge of the ship. So I can just put a little bit of glue in there. There we go. So the back of him stuck to the ship as well. So he's got a little place to stand, and he's glued on the back. And I thought about putting this texture with the wood, but the coffee stir sticks are going to be too tricky to mount, I think, in that shape. So what I'll do is use a bit of modelling paste to thin that out and get the right shape that I want. And then I just need to figure out whether he's got his shield up or whether he's sort of leaning on his shield, whether he's just saying maybe he's taking a break, or whether he's ready to fight. I reckon shield's up. Dwarves are always ready for a little bit of a fight, aren't they? In these fantasy games. So we'll get his arms just sitting on, so we'll glue this. So his hammer's up. And I just need to figure out the right pose for this shield. It's about there. So I need some glue just in here. some form of dwarven named ship, whether it's a transport ship and it's maybe like a secure cargo, nice armored dwarf, or it's a battleship and it's a dwarven sort of army ship. But that is a little figure on the front, so I reckon maybe like a bronze, because all of this is getting painted, I reckon, and sort of coloured like a wood, so it's not going to be this sort of shiny, well, it's not going to be this colour, but it will be similar, obviously, a wooden ship with maybe some dwarven bronze, and maybe that means that the statue's bronzed. So what we'll do is get a bit of this modelling paste on, just to see how well that thins that texture out. I reckon it shouldn't need much. And what's handy about having the coffee stir sticks is they're pretty much modelling paste smoothing sticks. So we'll just need a little bit, not much, just to get onto this bubbly foam texture. Just so it get rid of those bubbles, because it's sort of like a packing foam rather than a closed, what do you call it, closed cell foam. It's just cheap. I've been using it on a few things just to fill in space, but it's nice and light, and it's quite easy to cut with a craft knife. Yeah, that'll work. So what I'm going to do is just coat this, and then it's going to look, get rid of the bubble look, but I should be able to give it sort of like a wooden grain look as well, probably. Well, that's the idea. Let's see what we can do. Smooth it up there. So picture it sort of like the wooden front of the ship just continuing on. And then the statue, or the little, yeah, dwarven statue. Probably wouldn't make it stone, although dwarves make a lot of stuff out of stone in fantasy. I probably wouldn't expect them to make a stone front to a ship, but you never know. And sort of just blend in that plastic base as well. And then if I get most of that on there, and everything's smaller, this should do it. Ooh. Let's just use the coffee stir stick to sort of get rid of the bubble look, but also give it that sort of wooden look too. So maybe this is sort of like a carved pedestal that he's on. I sort of just continue down, use that same texture on there just to blend it so it sort of looks like one whole piece. Because that's like working on this has sort of made me realise you sort of just keep adding little textures and stuff, and try and blend it with the other materials you've got. So I've added wood to the side and I've added wood to the back. What I was thinking is I probably need to either score this a little bit, because I can't really bend these coffee stir sticks. They've got a little bit of give, but not really. But on the straighter bits I could add a few little wooden bits that sort of bring this texture together with the ship. So it sort of should be there. It's like, rather than blatantly looking like a coffee stir stick on the side of my plastic ship. There we go. So, with just a little bit of modelling paste, and I can probably do a bit more modelling paste around here as well, so just to blend it in. So that's the little dwarven statue that I reckon is going to be maybe like a bronze or a coppery look, sitting on the, in my mind, wooden front of the ship. So that looks quite wooden. Well, it should do once it's painted anyway. And then I've got a couple of other little bits to add. Now I reckon if I've got the wood on that side, if I move that over there, just to bring some interesting stuff over this side, I can put that on now too. So this is just a little wooden anchor I got from a crafting kit. So I reckon a little bit of super glue. So I think a little bit of investment in some more super glue would be the way to go. I've seen crafters do sort of like a little bit of super glue that then sets what you're starting on, and then you can use the PVA glue or the tacky glue to do the next bits that rest on it so it doesn't all slip off. The super glue worked really well to hold this cardboard in place, because you just little spot, hold it, and then bent it around the thing with a bit more super glue, and it held really nice. So it's looking a little bit odd now because it's got obviously the white, the plastic grey, the original boat colour, bits of coffee stir stick wood, bits of cardboard, bits of plastic for the window at the back. I might just add some extra detail to this back window. Oh, if I did that, it sort of looked like a dwarf helmet face as well. So I could do that. Yeah. So just a little bit off there. What was once a modelling paste smoother outer is now going to be a piece of window. the safety glasses on, so that's all good. That went flying, but anyway, a little bit more. Let's flatten those corners down. That'll fit. In there. So, super glue. Piece of wood. And stuck. So what I was thinking with the modelling paste as well is, like, there's a couple of, oh, that's pretty solid now, but there's a little bit of a gap through in here, so I could jam it in there just to smooth it a bit more. What time have we got? 15. Let's do it. So we got coffee stir stick, modelling paste, so I will undercoat this with Mod Podge with black paint, so it's pretty much PVA glue and paint, but it doesn't really get into the little, doesn't fill gaps, so I reckon if I use some of this just to get into some of these gaps and just strike it away with the grain of, with the line of the wood, then it will just fill that gap. And it's, once it dries, you can sort of scratch it off or scrape it off. So how it's on the plastic at the moment, I can probably get a little piece of metal or tool just to scrape that off the plastic part. So that'll work quite well, I think. So I get it in this gap here and just swipe it away. It makes it sort of like the wood grain anyway. Just swipe it down, and the undercoat will blend, or at least make it look like it's all the same surface, but without trying to lose some of that texture. You can put too much of the Mod Podge on and it's just like a big piece of grey or whatever. Not grey, big smooth surface. But if you keep it nice and light, you can keep the texture, because I don't want to just coat this in Mod Podge or this modelling paste and lose all the texture that I'm sort of wanting out of these coffee stir sticks. So we can just drag along there just to fill in some of the bigger gaps. I mean, there's going to be gaps all over the show, and I mean, a ship's got gaps. I mean, it's not going to have every little blemish filled in. I mean, maybe the dwarves are a little bit better builders than I am, but this one, maybe it's seen a little bit of life at sea, and maybe they've gone to a different port each time when they need to do a bit of repair and got into different type of wood or different material each time just to patch it up. So you're not going to have a perfect looking, in this case, rudder each time. also keeping that sort of texture of the wood. And it's pretty, this modelling paste sort of dries slowly, so you can sort of work with it for a wee while. And like I said before, I think I can scrape it off these bits of plastic once it is dried, because at the moment it's just sort of moving it around. But so that gets right. So what have we got here? We have come quite a way this stream, which is good. So I did a little bit before stream just to speed up a couple of bits and pieces. So let's recap what we've got here. So if you're just watching me, you've got the base. So the whole idea of this build is this plastic chip I got from a tip shop for $1 or something ridiculous, 50 cents maybe, and I looked at it and thought, oh, I could use that. It's the right sort of scale for tabletop miniatures, and it's got a hollow base, and I could make the lower deck. So that's what this base is. This base here is the lower deck. So it's got the coffee stir sticks, and then around it is the modelling paste turned into waves. Now I'm not going to stick it down just because I've got the modelling paste on the back there, but it sits on that circle and creates a little click and holds itself down. And so when you're playing on a tabletop game, you just pop it off and have your people or scene in the lower deck. And you've also got the upper deck. I've still got to put on a little wheel, which I might do now, and I've made the magnetic mast. Magnetic more for storage, but also playing, like if you're attacking the ship, you blow the mast away. But yeah, mainly that packing down to store. The one that it came with pops out of there, so you can store that. So nice packing away, easy storage. And then we've come and added to the back that extra little sort of captain's quarters on the back. Added a rudder, stairs down the side, or ladder down the side, and I'm quite happy with this little miniature. So it's a little miniature dwarf character with a hammer and a shield, and he's sitting on a little bit of the boat that juts out, but that is the spirit of the ship, I suppose, the soul of the ship, or it'll build to the name of the ship eventually once I figure one out. But anchor, I've got a bit of chain that I could add, or even just string, I suppose, just to make that, curl it up and sit it there for that. And so far that is pretty much where we're going. So let's see if 5 minutes, and I reckon I can, because super glue, amazing. Just put that up while that rudder dries. So this little guy here is a model ship rudder, not rudder, sorry, steering wheel, and from Artisania Latina. I got it at a clearance sale ages ago. So I measured that little piece there so it sits in. So what I'm going to do is we'll get a little bit of super glue and this little pin goes through and it should spin. So we just need the smallest of dabs of super glue. I don't really mind if I damage this and it just glues the whole thing, but I'd prefer to keep it spinning. So it's got a little hole in there and that little pin. I think it's gonna I might have done it. I don't have pliers, but so I just push this down. Ooh. There we go. So it's a little wheel that's going to sit in there, and 3 minutes I can do it. So we're going to super glue in here. And we're going to put this little wheel in here. A bit more super glue. So when this guy here, standing at the back, oops, damn. Note to self, wet modelling paste on the front, but we're good. So he's got a little steering wheel, because you do need to steer ships. So he's got a steering wheel, and did I do it? Yep. Turns. Not that you need it to, but hey, I like things that move. So it's got a little pin that holds it in, and that should be super glued. And now it's got a wheelhouse. Wheelhouse? Nah. Forgotten the term. It's the steering wheel for the ship, whatever that might be. I should really get a glossary of terms for old sailing ships, since I'm trying to make one, so I can reference the terms properly. So I just put my finger in that earlier, but because it's still wet, I just flicked it down and it's not a problem. So that is 9 o'clock, and that is my hour stream, and this has come a long way. So I think what I'll do next time is just see if I need to add anything to that rudder. Once it's dried, I'll just make sure it fits to my base, and then we might start doing some undercoating. So thank you very much, team. Thank you for watching, and we will catch you the next time and see where we take this ship. Have a good evening. Bye.